Now I know it's been a good long while since I've given you an atheism video. And I really do mean I've given them to you, because it's not like you've done anything to earn them. But this is one that's been toying around in my head for a little while, and I figured why not talk about it, alright? Who remembers Terri Schiavo? Of course none of you remember her. So anyway, even though it all started back in the 90s, the Terri Schiavo case didn't gain much media attention until the mid-noughts. So here's what happened. Terri Schiavo was in a persistent vegetative state, and there was a lot of discussion over whether or not she was a living, breathing person, whether or not she really was watching that balloon and giving us a crooked smile, or whether she was actually brain dead and would never recover. But if you asked the typical Christian, she is alive. The tube should be kept in. You call that living? It's not up to us to decide whose turn it is to die. Well, sure, but if that's what you call living, I'd want to die. Anyway, her husband won the case over her parents to have the feeding tube removed, and 13 days later she died of renal failure. Shortly after that, an autopsy proved that parts of her brain weren't there. The parts of the brain that control sight were liquefied and gone, and so she really wasn't looking at that balloon. She was dead and would never get better. Why did all the conservative Christians have such a hard time removing the feeding tube from her throat? It's something that baffles me to this day. I mean, for the rest of this argument, not only will I concede that there is such a thing as a soul, but I will also concede that there is such a thing as an afterlife, alright? Let's say you're from the school of thought that says the soul cannot completely make its trip to the afterlife until the body is completely dead. Why would anyone force this woman to remain in such a limbo? Let's say that you're from the school of thought that says that once her body fails to work, the soul is already there. The soul goes on its trip to the afterlife forever. If you're from that school of thought, why keep the body alive? So it doesn't make any sense for Christians to stand up there and say, well, don't kill her, and well, that's what none of us called it that. We were calling it allowing her to die. Which, that's fair, I guess. So we can't call it that. But honest, this all happened so long ago. What's your point? The point is that one thing that all of these Christian scholars like to spout out at us is something called objective morality. Which means that if things are wrong, they're wrong across the board. Some things are wrong, and they'll always be wrong. And if that's the case, then why was the debate on the Terri Schiavo case so divided? So let's say that such a thing as objective morality exists. And in a case such as the Terri Schiavo case, and just between you and me, there are cases like this going on every day. So what we're saying is that if objective morality exists, then not only is taking a life wrong, no matter what, failing to allow a dying person to suffer is also wrong. At least that's what I get out of it anyway. So if taking a life is wrong no matter what, well then here's a little thought experiment for you. Let's say that God gets a wild hair up his ass and comes down off of his throne and stands before you and does whatever you need of him to prove that he's God. And he asks you to kill your children. The typical Christian response, without a second thought, what the fuck is wrong with you? I don't even want to play chess with you anymore. So what was all that about objective morality? And then just a little aside here, I have another friend who's also been a long-time subscriber of mine. His name is White Tiger and a bunch of numbers. I can't remember the numbers. But he's a bright kid, he speaks with a southern drawl, and he's speaking on atheism and shit. So go check him out too while we're at it.